Hey, what's going on, Rob? We're closing out our 10 tenets of kindness.
Here we go.
How fast did that go? Number 9, kindness is customized. And
Oh,
also, kindness is a choice. Rob, what?
what is that? So kindness is so that first one. You know what's funny, Tim, is that you and I have been around each other for a bit, and I started using this. I saw this that word bespoke, and now it's become corporate speak. It's hilarious. Like I sometimes I think I'm just swimming in the water, everybody else is swimming in. Like no one was using that term, and now everybody's using it. But it's but what was interesting to me in thinking about kindness is this is my experience, and this comes out of our research on leading under pressure. And you know, when I've done some writing, I wrote a book about composure under pressure and what it means that people have different defaults and emotionally. So some people have a tendency under pressure to, you know, lean more towards their convictions and clarity and what's important to them, and others have more under pressure a tendency in certain situations to focus on more on what everyone else is feeling and trying to make sure everyone else is feeling okay. And when I was thinking preparing for this, I realized, oh, there's a direct application here because I have heard so many people whose default, you know, and this we do this in the leading under pressure inventory when people
Yep.
profile on attention to self or attention to other, that people whose default is to be attentive to what everyone else is feeling. When I've tried to coach leaders like that into being more clear under pressure, I've literally had people say to me is they'll say, well, people will think I'm angry.
What?
No, they will. That's the way they feel.
Hmm.
And and so this is where, and so realizing that this is why a one size doesn't fits all doesn't work
Right.
in whole leader development, because even you think about the concept of kindness is what I perceive as kindness that I might express, you may perceive very differently. And so depending upon some of your emotional defaults or kind of where you go, even your family of origin and the way you were raised or the
Yep.
corporate culture you're working within. And I think we have to be thoughtful about this. This is why, like, if we wrote a book on kindness and just had the 10 principles that apply to everyone, that would be a lie. You know what I mean? Because those principles would have nuance for every person.
Yep.
As long as we included the nuance, then I think it would be closer to the truth. Because that was my point with the first one, was just that people perceive and experience and express kindness differently. And that's where it gets interesting.
It's true. And we all exist in our own contexts and environments, right? Like one of the first conversations, in-depth conversations that you and I ever had was on Ron Mormon's podcast. And we talked about
That's
transition
right.
from being a high threat contractor in the security industry to walking into the tech world, anxiety. And you're like, what do you mean anxiety? Like nobody's trying to hurt you there, but it's that change of context and environment, right? And so you're absolutely
Mm-hmm.
right.
Mm-hmm.
Holistic kindness is important because there's so many different facets of
Mm-hmm.
everybody's life. We have different people that we talk to, work with, live with. We have different environments that we're in and out of, right? What works here, if you're even just doing public speaking, what works with a certain audience doesn't work for another audience, right? You have to understand who you're talking to, where you are, so that you can connect well, right? And at the kindness games, we ask the question for holistic kindness: what if we realize that kindness is actually the strongest, most engaging, and sustainable form of leadership available? And what if
Mm.
we committed to engaging each aspect of our lives in kindness? What would
Yeah.
it look like, right? And that's customized.
Yeah, it is. And it reminds me, you know, there's the whole idea of love languages, which, you know, it's just, I mean, it got us thinking about this reality that we appreciate different things. We
Right.
experience love and kindness in different ways. And so if I express kindness to my wife, she has very different kinds of, you
Yep.
know, I guarantee it. So there's just like love languages are probably kind of mapping the same as that there's kindness languages. There's like the way that we express and receive may look different for different people. And my hope would be people who might hear this would say, okay, that explains a lot. You know what I mean? They might feel like not such a like a weirdo. Like I think so often we feel like wild things in a sensible world and we're just not sensible. So it's like just this reality that if someone might feel comforted just by hearing that, like, oh yeah, I am different than this other loved one of mine or this coworker of mine. And it's okay. And we're going to figure that out together.
Yeah, and we're not saying that we should be different people in different circumstances, but you just show up a little bit different, right? Like there's some
Right.
circumstances where like my amazing big personality is welcomed, it adds, and it like, yeah, let's do this. But there's actually a lot of circumstances in my private life, even in different work contexts, to where if I show up with that energy, it does not do anybody any good. Actually, it detracts from the experience for everybody else. And so like out of kindness, I minimize myself because intentionally I want the best outcome for me and the people around me, right?
Right. And it's interesting because it's not be a chameleon so that you can get what you want. That's one message, but it's if I care about you, I would be compelled to actually think about what it is that you value.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? Which may be different from what I value. So it's not pandering, and it's not doing it so I can get what I want. I think that's why when people ask me about, so are you saying do this? And I'm always like, well, go back to question, what is your intent?
Yeah.
Is my intent to understand Tim and because it's like that idea that I should just be myself all the time is kind of like, well, what if myself is not really helpful to you? Would I be sacrificial enough to say, like, can I put myself in your shoes and maybe even respond to you in a way that you would say, this is valuable to me when you express that?
No, and you know, the other thing is if we're actually looking at kindness as recognizing the other humans in every situation so that we can ensure they're well served, that's a choice, right? Like the whole goal of that is to create connection and relationship.
Yeah.
And not every relationship has to be as deep of a relationship, but if you create relationships and connections with everybody you come in contact to or contact with, you'll be more well thought of and more well engaged as well, right? And that is good for the community, wouldn't you say?
I would absolutely say that. That last one, kindness is a choice that you mentioned, it's so interesting, Tim, because my hope is that because the kindness games, wild leaders, all this, like the necessity for branding that is important, right? So people have a place that they see this as a community of people that are about something different.
Right.
And at the same time, kindness is not going to go away. Wild leaders and the kindness games will go away. Kindness is never not going to be a thing that we're going to have to continue to work on for the rest of our lives. So my hope is that people wouldn't go like, well, kindness was a fad last year. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, it's ridiculous. Like, we're talking about developing whole people.
Yep.
That's never not gonna to cease to be an ongoing choice and challenge and opportunity to show up in our world differently. And that's what I hope people are inspired to, is like a lifelong commitment to this choice, to then, and certainly to produce habits, but at certain points in our lives we're going to be better at it.
Absolutely.
Other times we're going to have to continue to work at it more. And so that's why I just it is a choice. I wish it was just natural, but I don't know that that's true.
But
I think it can become more natural.
I'm just saying, being fat is natural, but most of us work to get away from it. And even some of us that work at it, mixed bag of success. I'm just saying. But I think it's important to leave people with this question, right? And this might be the question that frames all of these conversations: is where do you want to live? Where do you want to lead?
Yeah, it's absolutely true.
All right, Rob, this has been awesome. Thanks for taking these
so good
time with me.
Anytime. It is such a pleasure, Tim.
All right, brother. Have a good one.
All right. You too.